Welcome to the Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Amosi Thurlow scale,
or MONS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello there, welcome back to Lost Signals Film and TV, and tonight we are sort of leading into our big Halloween sort of extravaganza. We're doing Hellfest. I, of course, remain Scott Thurlow, and I'm here with Stephen Amosi.
How you doing?
And Chris Morgan.
Tickets, please.
Mm-hmm. And for this film, I believe Steve-O has the logline for us.
Yeah, this is The Gang Goes to Hellfest.
By which you mean the Scooby-Doo gang, of course, and yes.
Yes, not the Always Sunny gang.
Although it could be like a mix of both, really. They're both kind of assholes.
Right.
But it works. All right, so we're going to go on just to the plot, and Chris will tell us about that.
Okay. A girl comes back from college and meets up with her friends, and they go to this thing called Hellfest, and everybody's paired off, and the girl comes back from college is set up with some other guy, and there's a lot of yammering that goes on. They have VIP passes to Hellfest, and one by one they get picked off. Starting with the guy, the guy, the one that was supposed to be set up with. I
think her name was Natalie.
Her name was Natalie, and his name was Wayne. Wyatt?
I don't think it's
doesn't
Wayne.
fucking matter.
It doesn't matter. That
doesn't sound right.
He died pretty quickly anyway, so it was cool.
Tall, goofy guy
in a really great way too, with the sledgehammer on one of the.
Oh, I definitely said I saw what it was set up, and I was like, "Ding!" Right before they did it, I was like, "Yes."
Yeah, that was awesome.
You're very clever, sir.
So he dies, and they go around this thing called Hellfest, which is a bunch of different like maze type things, and one by one they're picked off by this guy. Long story short, the only two that survive are Natalie and
her best friend was Brooke, I think.
Brooke, that was it. They survive, and then the killer goes home, puts the shit away, comes in, and gives his daughter one of the toys he stole from one of the dead people.
So not only is he a murderer, but he's a thief as well.
He's a family man. He came home in a minivan. That was awesome.
That was the biggest. That blew my mind. That fathers can also be killers.
But I was kind
Did
of
it blow your mind?
Two things subvert my expectations. I mean, I knew this was
like a Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, this was horror film the movie, or was it horror film the movie?
Horror movie the film.
Horror movie the film. Yeah, and so I saw the trailer, and I'm like, all right, the one lead white girl's gonna live, and the last one is gonna die as the guy they fix her up with, and blah blah blah. And it turns out he died right away, and Brooke and Natalie, that was the chick.
Huge subversion. Right.
In the third act, they're actually not Nimrods. They actually figure out how to beat the guy, but the guy was one step ahead of him. They figured out the triggers for each of the room and decided like every time the room would go off, it would let him know where he was. They hid in a closet. They doubled back, but the guy had already broken the lock off. So like the women acted intelligently and survived. They were rewarded for not being Nimrods. And then the killer turned out to be a family man. I thought the third act was really strong. And I thought the other two were okay. So I'm going to give this a solid 2.
All right.
Good.
Well, let me just say this. First of all, before we continue, I would like to, as I was supposed to do at the beginning of this show, give a shout out to our buddy John Smith, who has been commenting on YouTube.
Good work,
Thank
sir.
you
Appreciate
so
it
much,
for
man.
Sure.
John Smith, this whiskey's for you. I brought my own flask.
Good looks. Forgot about that.
And
cheers, John Smith.
Also, our biggest fan since we started, Pam, is in the audience today. I'm going to give her a shout out as well. I know she's very embarrassed
creepily watching
now.
us right now.
John, I'd spill a sip, so I'm going to take a sip for you. I don't have any place. Well, I don't think
whiskey.
Just drink it.
Scott doesn't want me to spill whiskey all over his living room. So here's to you, man.
Anyway, I'm going to go into what I thought of the plot. I thought it was pretty solid, actually. It was fairly tense throughout, although like I was at points like enjoying the tension. I wouldn't say it was ever like really scary, but I was enjoying the tension. It was like a 90s slasher flick for the most part, which was fun, and also laughing half at like the dumb tropes and half at the actually pretty funny lines that they had in this from time to time. So, as far as the plot goes, I thought that it kept up the slasher feel pretty well. It did just feel like kind of one of those teen horror movies, like Screamish, maybe like a step below Scream. But I think I'm going to give this. It's either going to be a 3 or a 2. I want to hear your what you think, Scott, and then I'll decide.
Okay, so like I'm mostly on Chris's side. I didn't even think about it in terms of acts. I just thought like, was I ever bored throughout? Like, not really. It didn't lose me, but was it like completely engaging? Also, not really either. I think it sustained itself well enough for what it was. It knew what it was. It wasn't trying to be anything else than what it said. What you expect on face value, and I think it did a pretty good job of that. I don't think it deserves full credit for a 3. Like it was, if they somehow like did actually like blow our minds with being a good horror film, then I'd give it a 3. But I think it doesn't deserve a 1 either. I just think it's competent enough for a solid or softish 2, but no more or no less.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a pretty strong 2. The way I would give it a 3, except that stupid reveal at the end was so dumb. It was like, oh, he's got a daughter. Who gives a shit?
I kind of like
that. Why?
I don't know. Like,
why does that matter at all? That he's a fucking did you not know that he was an actual person? You think he was a fucking demon?
Sure, but I see what you're saying. But like for some reason, like I can't really put my finger on. Like I kind of enjoyed it.
I don't know.
The only thing that would have made the ending better is because the guy the would-be suitor for Natalie, he's the first one to get killed, and the reason he gets killed is trying to get her a doll.
Well, so, if he was better at carnival games.
Yeah, he sucked at. Yeah, if he was better at carnival games, he may have lived.
And got
laid. But he went to go rip off from one of the supply lockers, one of the dolls. The only thing that would have improved it is if the killer brought that doll home, as opposed to the orange octopus type whatever thing he took from the one with the short girl with the short hair.
Yes. Taylor, I believe is her
Taylor,
name.
Yeah. I would say that also one of my regrets of this movie is that Taylor. She died because she was easily the best character in this movie. Like,
she had the most personality.
By far the most personality, and was the funniest and like the best character.
All right, so you going with a 2 though?
I'm gonna stick with a 2.
Okay. Alrighty then. Well, that'll bring me 2 themes. So you can either go like jokey or like what you just said. Serial killers are people too. They look just like everyone else, but Addams Family already covered that. So like, other than that, like I said, it's not trying to do much else beyond that. Like, what is this movie trying to say? Nothing really.
Don't
like,
go to Hellfest.
Have a message. Like, yeah, I'll talk more about Hellfest itself like later, like the framework for it. Yeah. But I don't think it really has a theme per se. It's just like an entertaining, like trying to be like, hey, turn your brain off kind of and just watch an okay horror movie. So unless you guys pull something out of your ass or like see something I completely missed theme-wise, I'm just going to have to give it a default 0, I think. So go ahead, open it up.
I don't think that it was trying to go beyond like the standard slasher flick. Even Scream had... I'm going to keep going back to Scream.
Sure.
It's like
I see
standard
the
slasher, right? And like this movie has a lot of things in common with it.
Sure.
Like even that had a pretty strong theme in the movie, I thought. Yeah. Whereas this one didn't really have anything more to say. So I'm going to probably give themes a 0.
Right.
Well, this film actually reminded me somewhat of an 80s slasher film called Funhouse. Except the kids decide to wait till the carnival's closed
okay.
and hang out in the funhouse all night because that's a good idea. But the theme of this film was horror, and
it wasn't even a theme though.
No.
The trappings of
exactly. It was the trappings of it. I'm giving it a 0 because there's it is just it's.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to here. Like I said, unless you pull something like ridiculous out, I think it's just a default 0. No, not a fault per se, but not trying to impart any message.
Right.
Like you said, horror movie, the film.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll bring us to antagonist with you, Steve-O.
Johnny Maskman.
Yeah.
He was a standard slasher antag, pretty good. I thought. I liked the. He seemed like he was always on their trail. Like the tension was kept up really well with him and the way that he stalked them, despite the fact that they give him a daughter at the end for no conceivable fucking reason. You don't really know anything about him
Which kind of the point, I would say.
Which is interesting.
Well, he whistles the monkey and the weasel. That's about what you know.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
you know, he
Pop
has
goes
a
the
kid.
weasel.
Pop goes the weasel.
What's the monkey and the weasel?
All around the mulberry bush, the monkey changed the weasel.
I don't know the whole fucking lyrics, but it doesn't
Jesus
really matter.
Christ.
But it's
Have
called
you ever
Pop
been a
Goes the
child?
Weasel.
Yeah, let's call it Pop Goes the Weasel.
Okay, but
Are we good here?
Yep.
All right. So I thought that he did a good job. Like that. Not he did a good job. You could have had anybody in that role, but like I thought that the script does a good job of making him
as
a
like the faceless,
scary kind of guy, you know. And
He did a very good
I'm
job
gonna give it a
killing
1.
people.
sure,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to add because
he's imposing.
it fulfills his role as like the stalker slasher. So it's like sort of like constantly like on their trail, you know, following them and then picking them off one by one here and there. I think some of the kills are pretty clever, but maybe that's a bit more style. So I'll speak maybe more about that in a second later on. But as a general antagonist, certainly once the little group figured out what was going on and like saw that he was actually murdering people and them, I think they felt quite antagonized throughout. And like you said, it kept it up well. Even if I wasn't personally scared myself, like it sold it enough for me.
Yeah.
On that front. So
Yeah, I'm going to give him 1. He was a solid villain. I guess the kills will, like you said, will go into in style, and there's really not much more to say. I thought he was great. He did his job very well.
yes.
And
exactly.
yeah, 1.
All right. So Chris, go on with the protagonists or protagonist, however you decide to cut it up.
I guess we'll call her Natalie, and she was a protagonist, and she had just come back from school, and everybody wanted her to hook up with this guy.
She did too. It's
And
not like she was
wanted,
opposed to
well,
it.
yeah, she wanted to too, and
It's very
I
important
don't know.
subplot.
She is really your stock protagonist in one of these things.
They all are.
You know,
I would say.
but that's the thing is, it's just like I don't know. She was just there. I mean, she was the protagonist. It's just like, you know, she could have had a P on her forehead for protagonist.
What?
Well, you know, she's a stock character, so it's just like, you know.
Yes. I'm mostly agreeing. Go on though.
PP on your belt.
I'm trying to figure out. She wasn't anything special until the 3rd act, when it turned out she wasn't a moron. She actually figured this whole thing out. Shit. For the 3rd act, I may have to give her a 1. Because she was pretty clueless. Literally got somebody killed right away. Because the killer, she thought it was part
Well,
of
she
the.
just watched it happen.
True, like, but again,
No,
like,
she said, "Go ahead, kill her."
yeah, because she thought it was part of the
She
show,
thought it was
not
part of the
the
show.
actual murder.
I don't think if she said, no, don't do it, he would have been like, all right.
Yeah, I'm just, you know.
Sure.
It's not like she was the cause of that death.
Right. So I don't know, man. Like you said, like yeah, her and everyone, all like cadre is all the stock characters you've ever seen in every fucking horror film like this. Like I don't know how else they're ever gonna do it. Sometimes they can, like for example, the actual original first Halloween. I believe we gave Laurie and credit there for being like an interesting and well-rounded protagonist, but that's few and far between. And this one's no exception, where they're just there, they serve their purpose, and then they get murdered in various ways, one by one. They're like every college kid
Wait,
you've
are you
ever
counting
met.
all of them as protagonists?
Not well. I'm thinking about it because sure, yes, Natalie is like the lead one. Maybe I mean lump like her and Brooke together in a sense because they had like the most time to be like running away and then fighting back against the killer. So I don't know, man. Like it's a tough one because I could go soft 1 or soft 0, like either way. So maybe I'll let you speak more, Stevo, and then maybe you can convince me or.
It's a 0 for me, dog.
Yeah.
All
right, man. Well,
I thought she was kind of boring as a main character. I didn't really care about her. I cared about the rest of the cast, and I think that the rest of them are supporting characters.
All right.
So
Yeah, I think you guys are right. Again, like I could literally like lean over the fence either one, but since there's like less there to it than not, I would say soft 0, and we'll move on to secondary with me. So yeah, I guess the rest of them. So there were like 6 of them or something. There's 3 couples, right? Plus her. So like I think I just.
Oh no, there are 3 couples including her.
All right. Yeah. Right. So like I just said though, they're okay. Yes, I agree that Taylor, their one like sort of punkish friend, was like more interesting. She definitely seemed to have more characterization to her versus the others, but that's not still saying all that much. But at least it was noticeable. Like I agree on that front. So like you might say maybe for her you give it a 1. I don't know, man. Like again, if I give the protagonist a 0 and like her friends are like even less fleshed out than that. So yeah, they're your standard like 19, I guess 20-year-olds, like Scooby-Doo gang going to a horror or Halloween party. But I don't think there's enough there. Taylor was good, like I said, but not enough for me for a 1. So
So
you go.
I'm gonna give it a 1 for Taylor and her boyfriend Ash. I think it was his name.
Yes.
I like the two of them. I like their dynamic. She was like the best character in this movie, like hands down, as I said.
Yeah, I still agree.
And I liked. So I'm gonna make a case for this. I liked all of the like jump scare people that came out of nowhere, like all their costumes and things.
I'm kind of
like
lumping that in style, though. They weren't
I don't know
characters.
I mean, they were.
I mean, they were like characters, but not characters. You know what I mean?
The entire setting was a character, right?
Yeah.
Like it has its own feel, and like they were a big part of why that was a thing. And like so, like there was one point where there's a giant like rock creature that's just on the side of the off to the side of the fucking camera. It reminded me of like what's that movie? The Neverending Story, the rock creature from Neverending Story. And,
like all that shit was cool, but I just think I'm lumping it into style. But if you're lumping it into secondary, you're saying
like
possibly?
I have a lot of other stuff for style. I think for that, like it adds. I think that this place, like I very rarely argue for this, but I think this place is its own character in this movie. I think that is probably the most important character in this movie.
It's a good
like,
setting. Agreed.
You know, all of these, all these like costumes and stuff like add to their own
or like collectively
feel of like so, you can certainly throw that into style, but I think for me that is
you're counting them.
Yeah, I'm gonna lump that in with supporting.
What do you think, Chris?
Tony Todd was one of the.
He was like the MC guy.
He was the MC guy for the
team thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Probably
awesome.
Earning his aside from.
But he was there for 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah,
but he was great.
There's Tony Todd earning probably one of the easiest paychecks he has ever learned.
All right.
Tony Todd is always magnificent, and on him alone, and also he did a lot of voiceovers like during the.
that was all him too. Like
a lot of it was him.
Fair enough.
He's magnificent. I think any character he plays is great. I'm sorry, there's like a fucking bug or something here.
Yeah.
So on the strength of him, I'm definitely giving it a 1.
Right.
I do. Taylor was okay. The other kids were okay. But Tony Todd really. You saw him. He was one of those guys that you saw him, and here's a seasoned actor and makes the most.
Sure.
I mean, he may be chewing up the scene, but he chews it up in just the right proportion.
I do like that description.
Yeah, he's great. So I'm definitely giving it a 1.
All right.
I liked him a lot. I wouldn't say he was chewing it in the right proportion. I think he ate that entire fucking scene, like whole.
All right, let's put it this way: he took it in well-proportioned bites. He ate the entire scene, but he didn't like gobble it all at one time.
Maybe kind of, but like think of it this way, just real quick. I don't want to like get us on this tangent, but it's sort of meta because I mean, like if this thing were real, if Hellfest really existed, you would expect the characters in it to like be over the top, like "Welcome to hell," and like so, like he has to act it that way in a sense. I would say
he must.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But sure, it was still like pretty good to see him. All I'm saying is like it wasn't enough because he was there for like one scene, not even like the whole scene technically. But you're saying it's enough for you for 1, and that's fine.
Absolutely. He's just one of these actors that's like he does so much with so little.
Sure.
Well, let's move on to dialogue, and that'll be you, Steve-O.
Ooh, dialogue with me. I think that this movie had adequate dialogue. I thought that it was
good description.
Pretty funny at certain points, and other points it was dumb teenager dialogue, but I wasn't mad at that either. Like it was fine. It wasn't god awful like teenager like dialogue. So I'm probably gonna give it a 1 unless somebody really convinces me otherwise.
No, that was pretty much what I was gonna do because normally, as you mentioned, like oftentimes it's like it feels as if like they're writing like people or writing a script have no clue how younger people actually speak.
It's like a 6-year-old writing teenager dialogue, like, and you can tell.
Totally radical, awesome, dude. Or whatever. like that.
Hello, fellow teens.
So like, but it did feel natural enough to me. So I agree with that. Yeah. So I'll give it like a lot of credit on that front. And the rest of it was fine, like you said, adequate, serviceable. You know, I would describe it as. But yeah, so because I thought to myself, oh, at least they're not like doing like a terrible, like trying to emulate young people speak, but failing terribly at it. No, I thought it was pretty natural. I could see these characters at this age like saying this shit, so...
I call this workmanlike plus.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. We want to start using that more, but I'm going to end with that. I'll give it a 1 because of it.
Well, there was dialogue in this film. Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, because I'm trying
Old
to
man Chris coming in to ruin the mood.
Oh, come on!
Tell the Hellfest,
wait,
Grandpa.
hold on a second. Hold on. You cannot recycle jokes. Well, I guess you can.
I just did.
You just did.
Prove it.
I mean, usually for me, dialogue, if it's at least serviceable, but I'm trying to decide what was more grating, the dialogue or the delivery.
I thought they were all okay.
I mean, because let's face facts. No, I mean, let's face facts. All right, I'll give it a softer one because it was serviceable.
Please don't change your answer for us, Chris.
No.
If convinced you, fine. If not, then
no. The reason I'm saying that is because unless the dialogue is atrocious, as long as it works, like you said, it wasn't like anybody trying
didn't feel stilted. Like I said,
it wasn't like it wasn't like a 48-year-old like me trying to write, whatever they're saying on MTV now.
And thank Christ, MTV, Jesus.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no, it's gonna get a soft one. It's gonna definitely ride. It's definitely not solo atrocious.
Not bad
dialogue.
enough for zero.
Yeah.
That cool guy Jesse
sure.
from MTV.
That you kids love so much.
He is totally rad.
Yep.
And he likes to have the sex.
Well, sure. Keep talking, Chris. Not about that though, but about style.
Please talk about something else.
I love the style of this movie. I absolutely, the thing that I thought was really cool was that you were with the kids, going through the haunted house. Like, it's like you were there moment. And it's
Sure.
really funny. It's one of those, but there's haunted houses. A lot of them are just jump scare. It's like it's really hard to create atmosphere in a lot of those places. And there are a lot of jump scares. And I loved it when she was just like, okay, here's how you could tell. And that was a cool thing that they also set up.
That was a nice little touch.
Because they set up at the beginning that she could tell who is real and who is the dummies, which is how she figured out the sensors. She already was twigging to that. So I loved it. But I am going to give a special shout out to one of my favorite modern composers, Bear McCreary.
Hell yeah.
His score, probably, he did a lot with it. And I did an article last year on the Agnus Dei from... it's the dun 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 dun, and he always would tease that at the beginning. He never completed it, but he'd go dun dun. I mean, he always teased it, and I noticed it. I think he did a lot with a soundtrack. He probably just came home after dinner, did this thing, and sent it off. Yeah,
Sure.
He did it. He did a great job. So I love the style of this movie, and I loved his take on the teenage slasher film score. So I'm giving this probably one of the stronger ones for this film.
Yeah, I would largely agree. Definitely was cool. Like when I saw music by Bear McCreary, I'm like, oh sweet, that's badass. Like I didn't even know he was doing it. So yeah, it kind of it's weird to think about if someone else had done the score, how much would it have changed? But I think it was very fitting. It definitely helped to sell or at least add to an extent the tension. And since you had mentioned earlier, Steve-O, all those costumes and shit, like the design and the sets, I guess it's basically one big set. But all that felt really real. Like I said to you guys, I wish that Hellfest actually existed. Go to it's a fucking horror rave, getting drinks and shit. You go through a maze and everyone's dressed up and all that shit was really cool. So yeah, I think style's pretty solid. And like you said, also briefly that some of it, the way it was shot, made you feel as if you were going through the haunted mazes with them. That was pretty solid. And again, it's had a pretty high production value, I would think, for what it was. And yeah, the jump scare shit, sort of meta because the setting is a haunted house. So when you go to those things, they were jump scaring you. So it didn't feel as cheap as it could have felt, possibly otherwise. So yeah, overall it was all perfectly fine. I think rather strong, in fact. So I'll give it a 1.
Yeah, this is one of the few movies where I mean, the jump scares didn't really get me after the first couple.
Sure.
Anymore because you're like, oh, is this jump scare the movie? But it's one of the few movies where the jump scares actually fit into the movie,
exactly.
Which I liked. Like you said, the costumes were great. The lighting was actually pretty good.
Yeah, good call.
I thought that a lot of the cinematography was good, and then some of it was meh, really meh.
Sure.
I don't know what it was. Some of the shots were fucking great, and then some of them were you probably should have done this from
kind of see
in
what
a
you mean.
different way.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, Chris, the soundtrack was terrific.
Bear McCreary's awesome, dude. Check him out if you haven't heard of him.
Yeah, buy his book.
Buy soundtracks.
And yeah, I mean, it just overall the style was really good in this flick. Probably the strongest point.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give that a 1. one.
All right, damn solid. All right, so now it falls to me for recommendation. Technically, I sort of did, like almost jokingly, when we saw this movie was coming out, we were like, I was like, dude, we have to go see it. It's probably going to be bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great either. It was okay. So I'm almost now wavering. Like, you could totally skip this movie. You're not missing anything if you don't see this movie. But if it like happen, I'm going to steal something from Chris. He's been saying recently. If it happens to be on while you're doing some other shit, sure, leave it on in the background, or like just put it on for Halloween leading up to Halloween or something.
Now, may I just interrupt you for just a second here? Is that what we're really going for from now on? Is that what we have to get up to?
Not the new standard.
To recommend things like,
no,
if you don't mind putting this on in the background, then I guess I recommend it.
No, but that's my whole point is like, I recommended it for the classic horror films because they were setting the standards. But usually if I say, if it's on, watch it while you're cooking a burrito, I think was one of the films.
You did say that.
Yeah, but that wouldn't necessarily, unless it's historically important to film or the genre. Sure. If I say something like that, that would not be a recommendation, Steve-O.
I have a bone to pick with that too, but we'll let it go.
Yeah, I'm not saying it should become a new standard, so I'm just trying to think of it broadly. I think I would probably not recommend it just generally overall more than I would. I'd be like, it was okay, but you totally, like I said, it's not like necessary. It's not like, oh man, it's one of the going to be like a new modern classic of horror movies or anything. But it wasn't terrible either. But I think at the end of the day, maybe forgettable, maybe the most damning thing I could say about it, because it was neither like, normally if something's like so bad you remember it, or if it's so great, same thing. This one's like, there's okay. In like a week, I'm going to forget this movie even existed. So it's probably why I'm going to give it like maybe a soft 0, but just a 0. I don't think I quite recommend it.
Yeah. I'm also going to go with a 0. My bone to pick with that is if you're watching a classic movie because of its importance to film, perhaps not the best idea to just put it on the background while you're doing something else.
No, I can't remember what I recommended it to, but I don't know if it was...
I believe it was Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Well, because there was so much minutia in that. But the thing about the burrito, I think that was another film.
Oh, that's a fast forward to something that's coming out later.
Oh, shit. Yeah, spoiler warning.
Spoiler, Chris wants to watch Creature from the Black Lagoon while eating a burrito.
No, that's not the burrito movie.
That's the optimal way to watch.
What the fuck was the burrito movie?
You'll find out
It doesn't matter.
We've probably already released it.
Probably.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm going to give this movie a 0 for recommend. It is a fun slasher, but go watch Scream. Go watch another slasher flick from the 90s. It's better. Like, I'd rather watch probably like I Know What You Did Last Summer than this movie. Like, that type of flick. Like, it's on that level.
You would rather watch I Know What You Did Last Summer?
It's slightly below that level. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's not get into a debate about that.
You want to talk shit about I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Yeah.
We can have a fight about this.
We'll do that later.
Yeah. We can fight about that.
Anyway, 0 on Hellfest for me for recommendation.
I'll just add on one quick thing before you go, Chris. Is that that's a good call. Like, put it up against like its contemporaries. It probably doesn't really hold up to the other ones that are in the same vein. So,
yeah.
So you got Chris.
I am going to recommend it. Right. It is going to be a soft recommendation. Let's put it that way. But it's been so long since I've seen a movie like this. And it was okay. It was a good movie. It was enjoyable. If it's one of these things, I'm like, if you get a chance to see it in the theater, it's a nice 89-minute film.
Sure. Yeah. It's the perfect length for this kind of shit.
I enjoyed it. Definitely one of these things where, again, if it's on Netflix or something, I will definitely like put it on. It's a nice seasonal movie. It really was one of those things. It's like, let's put it this way. It's like candy corn. It's enjoyable for like a sitting, and you don't really want it anymore during the month. But it's a perfect seasonal movie. It is kind of what I was looking. It's kind of something I looked for. I saw a lot, growing up, and they haven't done a film like this, even though it was Troporama.
Sure.
I did enjoy it. I thought it was a decent film. It would definitely not be on my top horror films of all time, but
shouldn't be anywhere near that list.
So it's like candy corn. It's garbage, but it's hard to stop. Eating.
It's easily consumable, but it's probably not good for you.
And the thing is, right about the time you're like, I don't want another one of these things, it's over.
Yeah.
It's
by the end, you're fucking sick of them.
It's probably better because you don't. Because it's candy corn,
and brown throw up.
With candy corn, it's easier to get sick on. By the time you're about to get bored of this, the movie's over. So, yeah, I'm gonna give it a recommendation. I liked it.
Alrighty. All right. So that'll bring us to the final scores. Chris, you have given it the highest score with a 7, it looks like. Steve-O followed shortly, but with a 6, and I've given it a mediocre 5, middle of the road, which gives us a score of 6 overall, I believe. Well, yes, but it looks like you missed... Sorry, folks who are listening to this. It looks like you misscored something here.
Oh,
we have a different score.
I believe Chris gave it an 8. Do you have a 7?
Yes.
No, wait, I got a 7.
Yeah, see? Crowd rules.
My apologies.
Anyway, it's a 6.3 or 6. It's not that big of a fucking difference either way, which I think is kind of about right. Like, it's middle of the road, maybe a little bit better as reflected there. But yeah, it's not garbage, but it's not fucking amazing. And if you saw it, sure. If you didn't, sure as well. I don't know. It's not, you can sort of take it or leave it, really.
You ain't gonna miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid 6. We got an average score of 6. Yeah.
So there you go. So I think that's probably about right for Hellfest. You know,
it's
not much more to say about it on that front. It was okay, and
it was okay. It was enjoyable.
You know what? It's a nice sort of like precursor, like sort of an appetizer for Halloween.
Great. That is perfectly well put.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think that'll do it. Any final thoughts?
None.
No.
Mine is, like I said, anyone out there, make Hellfest an actual thing. Do it. Put it on as a show. Sell tickets, sell drinks. People go to it. I certainly would.
Scott has been saying this all night.
It just seems like a good idea. Like, it's almost like a shame that they wasted it as a plot in a device in a movie instead of actually doing it in real life.
That's one thing I told Beth. I'm like, if this were real, I would probably be dead because I'm totally like Taylor on that. I'm like, yeah.
I don't think that Scott is saying bring the actual murder into it.
It's also not
that he would
the
be
worst
against
idea
it,
either.
But I enter these things with reckless abandonment like Taylor did. She's
Sure.
where she was very gung ho. I would volunteer to get the guillotine. Yeah. So yeah, I totally recognize. I identified with her character.
It's been nice knowing you.
Well, then, when and if this does exist, Chris, you're dead. And I'll be enjoying some drinks with some costumed.
Scott,
monsters.
you and I can hug each other at the end on the steps.
All right, sounds good.
Are you guys going to go to Spain together?
We'll survive. Yeah. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what. That's what.
That was from the movie.
See, that's when I thought that.
That's when I hope
Natalie's friend.
Brooke.
That's when I was sure Brooke was going to die because they're like, we should go to Spain.
They turned this motherfucker on
We'll
its
finally
head.
go to Spain. Oh, I'm like,
Hellfest 2. They're going to get murdered in Spain.
That's the fucking subtitle.
Yes.
But I don't think they're going to make a Hellfest 2. But if they do, maybe I might see that too, just for the hell of it, if you will.
Maybe the murderer and his daughter are both killing people.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Well, anyway, I think that'll do it for this Hellfest. I have been Scott Thurlow. This has been Stephen Amosi.
That's Chris's evil laugh.
And that has been Chris Morgan's evil laugh.
Good night.
We'll see you next time.
Editing and engineering by Stephen Amosi. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or mods?